Crystals have gone viral on social media. Celebrities swear by them.
I believe a lot in crystal energy.
And influencers sell them in vast quantities for wellness, beauty, and as a health and spiritual remedy. But is there any truth behind the hype? And what are the working conditions of the people who source them? We investigate the crystal hype and uncover the dark side of the glossy business that spans the globe. To get a glimpse behind the scenes, we head to Stuttgart, Germany. There we meet a social media influencer who sells crystals.
We have all sorts of stuff here. It looks really cool.
And we find ourselves in a world full of bling and fancy names.
That one costs 26 euros. We have blue amber and peridot. We have unicorn stone, angel aura, star flash, rose quartz. And Bea gets the first claim.
Bea kriegt den ersten Claim.
Congratulations.
German influencer Sarah Boh runs a crystal shop on Instagram. Every Wednesday evening, she hosts a live sale for 8 hours straight, together with her mother. Nearly 4,000 people are taking part in this one.
Gleich ausverkauft.
What a beautiful labradorite. Looks really nice and the shape is so cool.
Many of her customers attend each of her weekly sales.
My customers are in their mid-20s to mid-60s. Some buy the crystals for decorative purposes, others only buy jewelry. Some look for really special ones and collect them, or buy them because they do some kind of ritual with them.
With each of her live events, Sarah sells crystals worth an average of 10,000 euros. Her business is so successful that she quit her previous job as a social media consultant. Crystals have gone viral. On Instagram alone, #crystals and #crystalhealing get more than 40 million hits.
I'm not sure if it's a trend. I'm just noticing that many people are now willing to talk about it publicly thanks to social media. They'll say, I think crystals are cool. They're more open about it and celebrate it as a lifestyle.
Many celebrities are also crystal fans.
I believe a lot in crystal energy. You know, when I moved to LA, I enjoyed learning and educating myself about crystals. I used to go to the crystal farm. I learned how to meditate.
Picked out a few crystals, got them home.
Yeah.
It has definitely an effect in my life. And it might just be a placebo.
Yeah.
But why do I feel so much more internally strong? Why my meditation's going deeper?
Yeah.
This one's in the shape of a heart. It protects you from negative energy and brings you loving energy. I love having my crystal on me.
This one's rose quartz too. It's supposed to help you attract love. But I'm coming across as way too esoteric. I'm not really like that.
The online marketplace is brimming with crystals, and their popularity has grown since the COVID pandemic. A study in the United States found that the number of young people between the age of 13 and 25 that use crystals or herbs as a spiritual exercise is 44%. Crystals are mined all over the world, but much of the polishing and processing takes place in India. The city of Jaipur is a hub of the industry. We're here to find out more about the people who process the stones and the conditions they work under. Some influencers are making big money from the crystal hype, but does it also benefit the local workers? Most of Jaipur's polishing units are small, employing just a few craftspeople. When we start filming inside a workshop, a young stone cutter is asked to leave the room. Child labour is officially illegal in India, but the law allows for some exceptions, which makes it more difficult to enforce. Many workers tell us that they started learning how to polish gems at an early age. Accidents are common, as 16-year-old Nafisuddin tells us.
You can get cuts, small cuts and sometimes big cuts. If you're not careful, you can also cut the stone incorrectly. People who are old leave this job. Older people can't do this precision work. Their eyes can't see well enough anymore, and their hands are no longer steady. When you get old, your hands tremble. If your hands shake, the gem will get cut incorrectly.
Day labourers like Nafisuddin have no labour protections. They earn between $2 and $6 a day, too little for a family to live on. It's estimated that about 50,000 children work in Jaipur. Many have been trafficked into slave labour, just like a 10-year-old boy we meet in a rescue shelter. His mother sold him to a trafficker and he ended up working in a gemstone bangle workshop. For 2 months of work, he was paid the equivalent of just $12, which was supposedly sent to his mother at home 1,000 kilometers away. The boy, who we aren't permitted to identify, is willing to tell us about his ordeal.
What happened after your father died?
40 days after his death, our money dried up. I went to school for another 2 months. And after that, my mother sent me here. This guy came and offered to help. He goes to villages looking for children to work, so my mother sent me with him.
He came to look for children?
Yes, for work.
How did you feel about doing this work?
I didn't like it. I was scared. I would wake up at 7 in the morning, start work in the unit at 9, and then had to work until 9 in the evening. Then I would have dinner and go to bed at 10 p.m.
Did you have to sit all day?
Yes.
What does this picture mean to you? It reminds you of the time you lived in your village, right?
Social worker Ramesh Paliwal supports rescued children who have experienced severe physical and psychological abuse.
They are sometimes forced to sleep on an empty stomach. Their lunch is often late, and they have dinner very late. Their physical and medical development stalls. They're under huge pressure to learn this work fast. Learn fast and make fewer mistakes. Nobody speaks to them with kindness. They're traumatized, they're beaten and verbally abused.
We're heading to another location where even younger children work in what are called rat hole mines. These two children spend their days looking for garnet. Sometimes all they find are tiny splinters. Climbing into these rat holes is the most frightening and dangerous part of their work, but there are more stones here, and some of them are larger. The narrow and unsecured tunnels can collapse, killing the miners. Rat holes are illegal in India, and we don't want them to go inside while we film. The children don't know how old they are, but they have learned what to look for to earn some money.
What's it called?
Lali.
What's lali?
It brings money.
You have a handful of stones. How much will it fetch you?
A few cents.
Which stone is nicer? How do you know?
You look at it. Like this.
What exactly do you see?
You see color.
What does the color mean? Does nicer color bring more money?
Yes.
What's that color?
Purplish.
Which one fetches more money?
Purple.
So what you earn from picking these stones, does it help?
Yes, it helps.
Who? Mom and Dad?
Yes.
The two are risking their lives for very little reward. They tell us that all the children in their community come here to work. They belong to the Bhil tribe, one of India's largest and poorest indigenous groups. Their families are landless and they live in makeshift tents. They tell us that some of them suffer from silicosis, a lung disease common among miners. But they can't afford medical care. Some of the communities are known as widow villages because so many of the men die at a young age. It's a strange paradox. Here, the crystals are making people sick, while elsewhere, influencers tout them as cures for all sorts of ailments.
It's clear quartz and blue apatite, which is really good for helping suppress your appetite, for weight loss.
If you're looking for something that clears your skin, takes care of your skin diseases, this is it.
If you have back pain, I recommend you placing some selenite where the pain is.
It helps you relieving the neck pain along with the shoulder pain. Use this remedy and let me know how it affected your life.
Ja, was haben wir denn alles? Also ein super
Here's a super popular stone for people just starting their collection. It's selenite.
Crystal vendor Sarah Bors says she doesn't offer recommendations on how to use the stones, but she knows that people are drawn to wellness trends on social media.
Tumble stones are a huge trend on TikTok. You put them in your bra for good luck or under your pillow. But I don't like it when people start selling the stones for specific illnesses, for example. I think that's really a problem.
We've heard a lot about different crystals and their supposed properties. But the belief in crystals wasn't invented by influencers. It's been popular for thousands of years, across different cultures and religions, from ancient Egypt and Greece to Asia and the Americas. The use of crystals for spiritual purposes has also flourished since the 1970s as part of the New Age movement. But is there any scientific basis for these beliefs? As a mineralogist, Peter Heaney has studied crystals for 25 years.
There is no evidence of an energy transfer of a crystal to the wearer. When crystal healers talk about this transfer of energy, my concern is that they are using a scientific term for a process that is not actually very scientific.
Crystal healing revolves around the theory that stones possess energies that can affect our well-being and even cure illnesses. Studies have shown that crystals can have a positive benefit, but that's not due to their energy, but to the placebo effect, the power of belief, as Thomas Plant tells us.
There's nothing wrong with the placebo effect. There's nothing wrong with trying to find ways to give us solace and peace and comfort and community and all of that. It's just that we have to be thoughtful about at what price and make sure that we're not missing something that could really help us because we're going down this, rabbit hole that's unproven.
That doesn't stop people coming to Jaipur to buy crystals and gemstone jewelry. Some even come all the way from Europe and resell the jewelry at home. Like Adolphe Besnard, who's from France.
Do you remember last season we have done this pendant?
Yes.
I think it could be great to have this kind of pendant, but instead of these hearts, we could put the flowers inside. And
he appears to know little about the reality that workers face here in many of the mines and polishing workshops.
Green is a very good. Customer really loves this combination color. If you have good energy, you will communicate this good energy in the product, and people will feel very comfortable with the product because all this energy is inside of the product.
But consumers, they do not ask so much about the source of it.
Yes, they ask where it's done, they ask what quality, but what is good with Gomez gems, it's visible of the product. You see, when you see, that's making the difference. When people see the product in my show, they see it's handmade because you see the hand of the worker.
Whether that might have been the hand of a child labourer doesn't seem to matter much to him. He buys his crystals from Gomez Gems, a wholesaler. The company's owner tells us they ship to 40 countries, including in Europe. For the polishing, they work with local workshops, much like the one we visited.
The
worker who has made the object doesn't get a fair price for it. Is there a problem with fair pricing in this industry?
I don't think like that. The reason is that we buy the raw materials for a price and we make our profit margin by selling it. So it depends on how many times this product crosses how many hands, how it moves along through an entire supply chain.
The stones pass through many hands before they reach the customer. Is it even possible to ensure legal standards and proper payment along such a complex supply chain?
That whole kind of fragmented structure of the supply chain makes it very difficult to really ensure that this stone comes from this quarry and is produced under those environmental or social conditions.
In India, child labour is illegal, but the definition of child labour allows for loopholes. Children under the age of 14 are permitted to contribute to family businesses. It's believed that millions of children under age 14 work. These are the countries that reportedly use child labour or bonded labour in the production of gemstones and jewellery. As gemstones cross borders, child labour becomes harder to identify and companies face little legal accountability. A new EU law requires companies to conduct human rights due diligence in their supply chains, but it only applies to companies with more than 1,000 employees and a turnover of more than 450 million euros.
Many of the gemstone businesses are beyond that threshold, and this is also where we need a combination of public and private standards. You also need Indian laws that really enforce, for example, the child labor doesn't happen. No? Because if not, as I said, you would may have a clean international supply chain and a dirty local supply chain, or a dirty supply chain for countries that don't care about standards, right?
We show our footage to Sarah in Germany.
I'd
really like to see supply chains become more transparent. The way it's now, it's impossible to fully vouch for people I don't know. I would absolutely vouch for my family or for my best friends, but I would never be willing to vouch for someone who just wants to make money, who might not care about other people.
Sarah shows us a video from one of her suppliers. This is how they present their products and production to her. When confronted with the footage from India, Sarah tells us she usually buys from countries like Indonesia, Brazil and China.
All I can do is to continue improving my relationship with my suppliers, so I know where the stones are coming from. If I leave the business, if I don't sell the stones, then someone else will.
Sarah says she tries to avoid middlemen, but admits it's not always possible.
We get all of our standard stones from a wholesaler. They come to us in a ready-made package. Otherwise, I couldn't offer prices that can compete with what those other stores can offer.
Kristallkonfettis eben machen. Und ein Kochlöffel. Ja. Leute.
Okay, guys, there are a lot of tumble stones in it.
Da sind super viele Trommelsteine drin.
She sells some of her stones by the scoop rather than individually.
Schaut mal bitte, wie hübsch die sind.
Look at how pretty they are. I'll put in another handful. Then you'll get a scoop.
Scoop.
Sarah doesn't tell us how much of her average per-show sales of 10,000 euros end up as profit. She's at the end of a global supply chain, a business with winners and losers.
Sold out. All gone.
Leer, nix mehr.